The massive meeting hall buzzed with voices from across the galaxy. Over 300 different alien species had gathered for the big event. Some floated in special tanks. Others moved on many legs. A few were just clouds of gas with thinking, machines inside them. But they all came for one reason: to talk about which new planets they might take over next. Zorlath felt small as he entered the Grand Chamber. This was his first time at the Galactic Council headquarters. Everything seemed so big and important. The ceiling stretched so high he could barely see it. Light from 3 artificial suns poured through giant windows. The walls themselves seemed to be made of living crystal that hummed with energy. "Stay close," his boss Velmora told him. Her blue scales shimmered as she moved. "Remember, you are just here to watch and learn. Do not speak unless spoken to." Zorlath nodded his bulbous head. As a junior diplomat from the Centauri Federation, he knew his place. His people looked somewhat like Earth octopuses, except with 6 tentacles instead of 8, and they walked upright. His skin changed colors slightly with his mood, right now a mix of purple, nervous, and yellow, excited. "When will the presentations begin?" he asked as they found their seats in the Centauri section. Velmora checked her data tablet. "Soon. The Arcturian delegates are always late. Once they arrive, things will start." As if on cue, a group of tall, thin beings with skin like glass entered the chamber. Light passed through their bodies, creating rainbow patterns on the floor. Everyone quieted down as the head of the council, Grand Minister Yulon, floated to the center platform. "Esteemed representatives of the galactic community," Yulon's voice boomed without need for speakers. "We gather once more for our Centennial Expansion Symposium. Today we discuss new worlds, ripe for settlement and resource gathering." The lights dimmed. A huge 3-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared above the central platform. Thousands of stars glowed in different colors. Green meant planets already taken. Yellow meant planets under study. Red meant danger zones. "Our exploration teams have identified 73 new systems with habitable worlds," Yulon continued. "We will review each one today." For the next 2 hours, different aliens came forward to present their findings. They showed beautiful worlds with strange plants and simple animals. They talked about water supplies, mineral deposits, and weather patterns. After each presentation, council members voted on whether to mark the world for colonization. Zorlath tried to pay attention, but his 3 eyes kept wandering to the huge galactic map. Something bothered him. In one section of the map, a single solar system glowed bright red. Not just one planet, but the entire system was marked as forbidden. During a short break, while Velmora talked with diplomats from the Rigel system, Zorlath slipped away to look closer at the map. He found the red system and checked its data tag. It read, "Sol System, Classification, Absolute Exclusion Zone." "Curious about the forbidden system?" a voice asked behind him. Zorlath spun around, embarrassed to be caught snooping, but instead of an angry council member, he found himself facing a being he had never seen before. It stood on 2 legs and had 2 arms. Its skin was a light brown color, and fur covered the top of its head. It wore a simple blue uniform with a small pin showing a blue and green planet. Yes, Zorlath admitted. "I've never seen an entire system marked red before." The 2-legged being smiled, showing flat white teeth. "That's my home system. I'm Alan Shepard." He extended one of his upper limbs. Zorlath stared in confusion at the outstretched limb. "Oh, sorry," Alan said, pulling his arm back. "Human custom. We grab each other's hands when we meet," called a handshake. "Human," Zorlath repeated. "I don't think I've heard of your species before." "Not surprising," Alan replied. "We keep to ourselves mostly, or rather everyone else keeps away from us." Before Zorlath could ask more questions, the meeting resumed. He hurried back to his seat, but he couldn't focus on the presentations anymore. His mind kept returning to the strange human and the forbidden system. After the day's final presentation, Zorlath approached Velmora. "Can I ask you something about the Sol system?" His boss's scales darkened immediately, a sign of alarm or anger. "Where did you hear that name?" "I saw it on the map. The whole system is marked red. Why is that? Velmora looked around to make sure no one was listening. We do not discuss that system, especially not the third planet. Earth is classified as an absolute exclusion zone by unanimous agreement of all council races. But why? Zorloth pressed. What's so dangerous about it? Listen carefully. Velmora lowered her voice to a whisper. Some things in this galaxy are better left alone. The beings from the third planet of Sol are one of those things. Do not ask about them again. Do not approach their representative if you see him. Do not even look at the Sol system on the maps, understand? Zorloth nodded, but inside his curiosity only grew stronger. That evening, while other diplomats attended a fancy dinner, Zorloth slipped into the council's public library. He found a data terminal and searched for Sol system and Earth. To his surprise, there was very little information available, just basic facts about the sun, the planets, and their moons. The entry for Earth was strangely short. Third planet from star, nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere, 71% water coverage, technological, civilization present. Status, absolute exclusion zone, no contact initiative authorized, approach at terminal risk. No history, no details about the civilization, nothing to explain why everyone seemed so afraid. As he was about to leave, someone sat down at the terminal next to him. It was Alan, the human. Finding everything you need? Alan asked casually. Not really, Zorloth admitted. There's almost no information about your world. Alan nodded. That's by design. The Council prefers to pretend we don't exist. But why? What did your species do to earn such fear? Alan's expression turned serious. We existed. That was enough. He looked around the empty library, then leaned closer. Look, I shouldn't be talking to you. There are rules about this. But you seem genuinely curious, not just afraid like most. He slipped a small data chip across the table. Come to the human quarters tonight. Room 422, East Tower. This chip will get you past security. I'll show you why everyone's so scared. Before Zorloth could respond, Alan stood and walked away. Later that night, Zorloth lay in his sleeping pod, staring at the small data chip. Velmora had warned him clearly to stay away from the human. The whole council seemed to think Earth was dangerous. But nothing in the galaxy was more powerful than Zorloth's curiosity. It had gotten him into trouble many times before. And now, it seemed it would do so again. He slipped out of his quarters when the station's lights dimmed for night cycle. The hallways were mostly empty as he made his way to the East Tower. At room 422, he hesitated, his skin flashing nervous purple patterns. Then he inserted the data chip into the security slot. The door opened silently, revealing Alan sitting at a small table. 2 glasses and a bottle of brown liquid sat between them. I was hoping you'd come, the human said with a smile. You're about to learn why Earth is never invaded. Zorloth stepped inside the human quarters. The room was much simpler than he expected. No fancy decorations or advanced technology on display. Just basic furniture, some plants, and a few pictures on the walls showing a blue and green planet. Please, sit down, Alan said, pointing to a chair. Zorloth settled his 6 tentacles carefully on the strange furniture. Your quarters are very simple, he said. Alan smiled. We humans don't need much. Even on Earth, I lived in a small place. Just enough room for my books and my dog. Dog? A type of animal we keep as companions, Alan explained. He picked up the bottle of brown liquid. Would you like to try some? It's called whiskey, a human drink. Zorloth's skin flashed a curious yellow color. Is it safe for my kind? I checked your species biology in the database. It should be fine, just take a small sip first. The liquid burned all 3 of Zorloth's throats as he swallowed, but left a warm, pleasant feeling afterward. Interesting, he said, his voice a bit hoarse. Now you promise to tell me why everyone fears your planet. Alan nodded and touched a control panel on the table. A holographic display appeared in the air between them. "What I'm about to show you isn't exactly secret," he explained. "It's just that most species prefer not to talk about it." The display showed a timeline labeled, "First Contact Attempts with Earth." Zorlath was shocked to see dozens of entries going back thousands of years. "The first recorded visitors to Earth were the Zeta Reticulans," Alan began, pointing to an image of gray-skinned beings with large heads and black eyes. "They came about 12,000 years ago when humans were just starting to build simple villages. They set up observation posts and tried to guide human development." "What happened to them?" Zorlath asked. "They all disappeared. Their homeworld lost contact after 3 years. When they sent ships to check, they found nothing. No bases, no equipment, no bodies." Alan swiped to the next entry on the timeline. "The Orion Collective tried next, about 5,000 years ago. They landed big ships near what we now call Egypt. They used their advanced technology to impress the humans and set themselves up as gods. The display showed tall, blue-skinned aliens standing on massive stone structures, with humans bowing before them. 6 months later, every single one was dead," Alan said flatly. "Killed by humans using simple bronze weapons and clever tactics." Zorlath's skin turned pale with shock. "But how? The technology gap would have been enormous." "Numbers, determination, and creativity," Alan replied. "Humans back then may have been primitive, but there were millions of them. And they didn't like being ruled by outsiders." Alan continued through the timeline, showing case after case of alien visitors to Earth, meeting bad ends. The Pleiadians, who tried to set up a colony in the year 1200, had their ships taken apart piece by curious humans. The Arcturian science mission that disappeared in 1582. The draconian invasion force of 1947 that was destroyed despite having technology centuries beyond what humans had at the time. "I don't understand," Zorlath said, his head spinning from the whiskey and the information. "How could a pre-spaceflight civilization defeat so many advanced species?" Alan stood up and walked to one of the pictures on the wall. It showed humans, in some kind of battle formation, holding primitive weapons. "This is what most species don't understand about humans," he said. "We evolved on what might be the most dangerous habitable planet in the galaxy. Earth has extreme weather, active volcanoes, deadly diseases, and thousands of predators. But worst of all, it has other humans." He touched the control panel again, and the display changed to show humans fighting each other throughout history. With spears and clubs, with swords and shields, with things that exploded and sent metal pieces flying. "For most of our history, humans spent their time fighting other humans," Alan explained. "Not just for food or territory like animals do, but for ideas, for beliefs, for power. We got very, very good at fighting." The images showed rows of humans, moving together like a single creature, others riding on 4-legged animals and shooting small weapons while moving at high speed, and still others moving through thick forests without making a sound. "These are Roman legions from 2,000 years ago," Alan pointed. "They could march 30 miles a day carrying heavy equipment, then build a complete fort every night before sleeping. These are Mongol horsemen who could shoot arrows with perfect aim while riding at full speed. And these are what we call special forces. Humans trained to fight for days without sleep." Zorlath looked closely at the images. "They move almost like machines." "That's what makes humans different," Alan said. "We can push our bodies beyond what should be possible. We can ignore pain, hunger, and fear when we need to. We call it mind over matter." He sat back down and poured more whiskey. "We're persistence predators. In prehistoric times, humans would chase animals until they collapsed from exhaustion, even if it took days. We can survive in almost any environment. We can eat nearly anything. We can go without water for days, without food for weeks." Zorlath took another sip of whiskey, feeling it warm his insides. "But surely other species have these abilities too." "Not all in one package," Alan replied. "Some species are stronger, some are faster. Some are smarter in certain ways, but humans are the jack of all trades. Not the best at anything, but good enough at everything to be dangerous." He brought up new images. Humans in white coverings exploring a barren, dusty world with no air. By the time we reached our own moon in 1969, we had already fought 2 planet-wide wars amongst ourselves. We had created weapons that could destroy entire cities. We had spread to every corner of our world, from burning deserts to frozen wastelands, and we had done it all while fighting each other constantly. Zorlath's color had shifted to a deep blue of concern. So the Council fears humans because they're naturally violent? Alan shook his head. Not exactly. Violence alone isn't that scary. Lots of species have violent tendencies. What makes humans different is our adaptability and our determination. He touched the control panel one last time, bringing up images of something that made Zorlath gasp. They showed alien ships, Zeta Reticulan, Orion, Pleiadian, but being operated by humans. Every time someone came to Earth, even if we defeated them, we learned from them, Alan explained. We studied their technology. We copied it. We improved it. With each encounter, humans got stronger. You stole their technology? Zorlath asked. We prefer the term salvaged, Alan said with a small smile. But there's more to the story than just technology. He looked at a clock on the wall. It's getting late, and you should return to your quarters before anyone notices you're missing. Your boss seemed pretty serious about you staying away from me. But I need to know more, Zorlath protested, his curiosity now burning stronger than ever. Alan considered for a moment. Tomorrow is the last day of the symposium. Most delegates will be attending the closing ceremony. Meet me here at midday. I'll show you what really happened, why Earth is truly under an exclusion order. Zorlath stood to leave, his head buzzing with all he had learned. At the door, he turned back. One question before I go. If humans are so dangerous, why are you here? Why does the Council allow even one human at their meetings? Alan's face turned serious. Because they fear what would happen if they didn't let us watch. They think keeping us isolated is safer than making us angry. He paused. They're probably right. As Zorlath made his way back to his quarters, his mind was filled with images of the small blue planet and its dangerous inhabitants, a world where life was so challenging that it created a species that could adapt to anything, fight through anything, survive anything. For the first time, he understood why the Council feared Earth, but now he needed, to know the rest of the story. What had happened to make the entire galactic community place Earth under an absolute exclusion zone? Tomorrow, he would find out. As he settled into his sleeping pod, one thought kept running through his mind. A species that dangerous couldn't be contained forever. Sooner or later, humans would come out to the stars in force. And when they did, the galaxy would never be the same. The next day, Zorlath could barely focus during the morning sessions of the symposium. His 3 eyes kept drifting to the clock on the wall. The speakers droned on about resource extraction methods for gas giants, but all he could think about was the humans' promise to reveal the whole truth about Earth. When the lunch break finally came, Zorlath made an excuse to Velmora about needing to send some messages home. His boss looked suspicious but didn't stop him. As soon as he was out of sight, Zorlath hurried to the East Tower. Alan was waiting at the door to his quarters. I was starting to think you'd changed your mind, he said as he let Zorlath in. Nothing could keep me away, Zorlath replied, his skin flashing excited yellow patterns. I need to know the rest of the story. Alan nodded and led him inside. The room had changed since yesterday. A large communication screen now dominated one wall, and a woman's face was displayed on it. She had dark skin and short black hair, and wore a uniform with many colorful patches and symbols. This is General Erin Bradley, Alan introduced her. She commands Earth's defense forces. So this is the curious Centaurian you mentioned, the general said, studying Zorlath with sharp eyes. Are you sure about this, Alan? The Council won't like it. He deserves to know, Alan replied. And maybe it's time for a change in policy anyway. The general sighed. Your call. I've unlocked the Omega Archive. Authorization, Bradley 73 Delta. The Screen changed to show multiple video feeds. Zorlath recognized them as recordings of battles, but what shocked him was the technology on display. He saw energy weapons, force fields, and gravity-defying vehicles, all being used by humans. What you're seeing is classified footage from what we call the Silent War, General Bradley explained. It happened in 2037, less than 50 years ago. But the technology, Zorlath stammered. This is centuries beyond what a young civilization should have. That's the part of the story I didn't finish yesterday, Alan said, gesturing for Zorlath to sit down. Remember I told you humans learn from every encounter with aliens? Well, we learned a lot. Alan touched a control, and the screen showed a timeline of alien encounters again, but with new information added. The Zeta Reticulans who disappeared, we didn't just defeat them. We captured their observation equipment and studied it. Their sensor technology gave us a 100-year leap in that field. The screen showed images of humans in old-fashioned clothing carefully taking apart alien devices. The Orions who tried to play God in Egypt? When we overthrew them, we gained their anti-gravity technology and power sources. We couldn't reproduce them yet, but we kept everything hidden away, waiting for the day our science caught up. Zorlath's color shifted to a shocked white. You've been collecting alien technology for thousands of years? Exactly. Alan nodded. For most of history, it was kept secret even from most humans. Small groups guarded the artifacts, passing them down through generations. They were often disguised as religious orders or secret societies. General Bradley added, by the 20th century, governments became involved. Area 51, Tunguska, the Bermuda Triangle, all sites where we studied and stored alien technology. But we didn't just collect it, Alan continued. We improved it. Humans have a special talent for looking at something and figuring out how to make it better, or deadlier. The screen displayed something that made Zorlath gasp. A small ship that was clearly of Arcturian design, but modified with weapons that looked like they came from draconian technology. By the early 21st century, we had working prototypes combining technologies from 17 different alien civilizations, General Bradley said. We kept it all hidden from the public, and from space observation. As far as the galaxy knew, we were still just primitive humans barely reaching our own moon. Then the Silent War happened, Alan said grimly. The screen changed to show massive ships appearing over major Earth cities, ships that Zorlath recognized as belonging to the Rigel Confederation, the Procyon Alliance, and 5 other advanced civilizations. 7 species formed a coalition, General Bradley explained. Their long-range scans had detected unusual energy signatures from Earth, signs of our secret technology testing. They realized we were advancing too quickly and decided to eliminate the threat before we reached the stars. They attacked without warning, Alan continued. Their plan was to strike simultaneously across the globe, overwhelming us before we could organize a defense. They expected to face primitive weapons, bullets and missiles at best. The screen showed the alien ships deploying troops and weapons. Then something unexpected happened. Hidden facilities opened in mountains, under oceans, and in ordinary-looking buildings. Human vehicles suddenly revealed advanced weapon systems. Soldiers donned armor that could deflect energy weapons. What you're seeing is the unveiling of humanity's greatest secret, Alan said quietly. In just 6 hours, we activated defense systems we'd been developing for centuries. The footage showed human fighters engaging alien battleships, using weapons, clearly adapted from various extraterrestrial designs, but modified in ways that made them more effective than their original forms. The coalition forces were completely annihilated within 6 days, General Bradley stated flatly. They never expected us to have the technology we did, and they certainly never expected us to have improved upon their own weapons. Zorlath watched, in amazement as human ships, clearly influenced by Pleiadian designs but smaller and more maneuverable, disabled a Rigel battlecruiser. Other humans used personal shield devices based on draconian technology, but modified to absorb energy attacks and redirect them. Not a single human city was lost, Alan said with quiet pride. We had prepared for this moment for thousands of years. What happened after? Zorlath asked, his voice barely a whisper. "We sent a message," General Bradley replied. "We transmitted evidence of the unprovoked attack to the Galactic Council, along with footage of our response. We also provided proof of our technological repository, adaptations of weapons systems from nearly every spacefaring race." Allen added, "We made it clear that we had no interest in revenge or expansion. We just wanted to be left alone. The Council responded by creating the absolute exclusion zone around our entire system. It wasn't our idea," General Bradley noted. "The Arcturian High Command proposed it, and every Council race unanimously approved. They preferred to pretend we don't exist rather than acknowledge what happened." "And what exactly did happen?" Zorloth asked, feeling a chill despite the comfortable room temperature. Allen's face grew serious. "The galaxy discovered that humans don't just adopt technology. We improve it. We weaponize it. We're not just dangerous because we're aggressive or tough. We're dangerous because we learn from every encounter and come out stronger." He pointed to the screen, now showing human engineers working on alien technology. "Look at what we did with Zeta Reticulin medical devices. They used them to heal cuts and burns. We modified them to regrow entire limbs. The draconian shields could stop energy blasts, but our version can absorb that energy and send it back at the attacker. It's what we do," General Bradley said. "We take ideas and push them to their logical conclusions, and beyond." Zorloth stared at the screen, his mind racing. Everything made sense now. The fear in Velmora's voice, the silence in the Council chamber when Earth was mentioned, the unanimous agreement to keep humans isolated. "So the exclusion zone is not to protect Earth from the galaxy," he said slowly, "but to protect the galaxy from Earth." Allen nodded. "That's what they believe, and maybe they're right to be cautious. Humans can be dangerous when threatened. But," General Bradley added, "we can also be the most loyal allies when treated with respect. That's something the Council has never considered. And that," Allen said, looking directly at Zorloth, "is why I showed you all this, because maybe it's time for a change." Zorloth's color shifted to a thoughtful blue. "What kind of change?" "The kind that starts with understanding," Allen replied. "The kind that might lead to real cooperation instead of fear." As the implications of everything he had learned sank in, Zorloth realized he was at a turning point not just in his own life, but possibly in galactic history. What he did with this knowledge could change everything. "I need to think about all this," he said finally. Allen nodded. "Take your time, but not too much time. The symposium ends tomorrow, and then we all return to our separate worlds. Whatever you decide to do, it needs to happen before then." As Zorloth left the humans' quarters, his mind was filled with images of the silent war and its aftermath. Humans weren't just violent survivors. They were innovators who could take any technology and make it better. That made them more dangerous than any predator species, but also potentially more valuable than any ally. The question now was, what should he do with this information? Zorloth hardly slept that night. His mind kept replaying everything Allen and General Bradley had shown him. Humans weren't just dangerous because they fought well. They were dangerous because they learned so quickly and improved on everything they touched. The next morning was the final day of the symposium. As Zorloth entered the great chamber with Velmora, he noticed how differently he now viewed the gathered species. Before he had seen them as wise and advanced. Now he wondered how many had tried to attack Earth and failed. How many were hiding their own encounters with humans. "You seem troubled," Velmora said, her scales shifting to a concerned pattern. "Did you sleep poorly?" "Just thinking about everything I've learned at the symposium," Zorloth replied carefully. The final session was about to begin when Zorloth noticed several important delegates approaching him. His skin flashed nervous purple. "Junior diplomat." "Zorloth," said Ulan, the Arcturian foreign minister. His translucent body rippled with what looked like agitation. "We need to speak with you privately." Before Zorloth could respond, Velmora stepped forward. "My apprentice has done nothing wrong, Minister." "That remains to be seen," said another delegate, a tall reptilian from the Draconian Imperium. "We have reports that he has been meeting with the Earth representative." The way he said Earth made it sound like a dirty word. Several nearby delegates backed away as if the word itself was dangerous. Velamora's scales darkened in alarm. "Is this true, Zorlath?" All three of Zorlath's eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of stress among his kind. But before he could answer, a voice called out from behind the group. "It's true. We've been talking." Alan walked calmly toward them, drawing shocked looks from everyone in the chamber. Humans rarely approached other delegates directly. "This is highly inappropriate," Ulan said, his voice cold. "The isolation protocols are clear." "The protocols were created out of fear, not diplomacy," Alan replied. "And they've been in place for 50 years now. Maybe it's time for a review." The Draconian representative hissed softly. "There is nothing to review. Earth is classified as an absolute exclusion zone for the safety of all." Zorlath looked from Alan to the angry delegates. He knew this was the moment Alan had mentioned, the time to decide what to do with what he had learned. His tentacles trembled slightly, but his skin began to shift to a determined orange color. "I've seen the truth about Earth," he said, his voice stronger than he expected. "I know about the silent war and why the Council fears humans." Gasps and murmurs spread through the chamber. No one spoke openly about such things. The junior diplomat clearly doesn't understand the situation, Ulan said quickly. "This discussion should not happen in public." "Maybe it should," Zorlath countered. "Maybe everyone should know why we hide from one small planet." "This is outrageous," the Draconian representative sputtered. "Centauri, control your diplomat." Velmora looked torn between her duty to the Council and her loyalty to her apprentice. Before she could decide, Zorlath activated his personal communicator and projected a large hologram in the center of the chamber. It showed footage from the silent war, humans using advanced technology to repel the alien invasion. The chamber fell completely silent. "The Council fears humans because they did this," Zorlath said, pointing to the images. "But they only did this because they were attacked first. 7 species tried to destroy them, and they defended themselves." "That information is classified," Ulan protested. "Why?" Zorlath asked. "Because it shows that humans aren't the monsters we make them out to be? Because it shows that we tried to destroy them and failed." More delegates had gathered now, watching in shocked silence. Alan stood calmly, saying nothing but smiling slightly. "The human showed me their history," Zorlath continued. "Yes, they fight. Yes, they're dangerous when threatened. But they also build, create, and improve. And most importantly, they only attacked when attacked first." The Pleiadian representative stepped forward. "What exactly are you suggesting, young Centaurian?" Zorlath took a deep breath. "I suggest that the Centauri Federation offer formal diplomatic recognition to Earth. Not isolation, but alliance." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Velmora's scales turned almost black with alarm. "Have you lost your minds?" the Draconian shouted. "Alliance with these savages?" "They're not savages," Zorlath replied firmly. "They're survivors. They evolved on a harsh world and became strong. They faced dozens of alien species trying to conquer them, and they learned from each encounter." He turned to look at all the assembled delegates. "Think about it. Would you rather have humans as enemies or allies? A species that can take your technology and make it better. Wouldn't you want them working with you rather than against you?" Ulan's translucent body rippled with conflicting emotions. "The risks are too great. Their aggressive tendencies are no worse than the Draconians," Zorlath interrupted, causing the reptilian delegate to hiss in anger. "Or the Rigel Confederation, or half a dozen other species we work with daily. The difference is that humans are better at fighting when they need to." Alan finally spoke up. "For 50 years, we've respected your fear. We've stayed within our system, even though we've developed technology that could have taken us to any part of the galaxy. We've sent only one representative to your council. We've been patient." He looked around the chamber. But patience has limits. Sooner or later, humans will expand to the stars. Wouldn't you rather that happen with cooperation instead of conflict? The room was quiet as the delegates considered this. Finally, an unexpected voice broke the silence. The Arctanian Collective will support diplomatic recognition of Earth. Everyone turned to see a tall, slender being with 4 arms step forward. The Arctanians were one of the oldest species in the Council, respected for their wisdom. If the humans wanted to destroy us, they could have done so after the Silent War, the Arctanian continued. Instead, they asked only to be left alone. That shows restraint few of us would have had in their position. One by one, other representatives began to speak up. The Pleiadian Commonwealth will also support recognition. The Centauri Federation formally proposes alliance with Earth, Velmora said, surprising Zorloth. His boss's scales had shifted to a determined blue pattern. Better to have them with us than apart from us. Within an hour, 17 species had voiced support for ending Earth's isolation. Even the Draconians, after much hissing and private discussion, reluctantly agreed that monitored diplomatic contact might be acceptable. As the session ended and delegates broke into excited discussion groups, Alan approached Zorloth. You did something remarkable today, the human said, extending his hand in that strange greeting gesture. You've changed the course of galactic politics. This time, Zorloth wrapped a tentacle carefully around Alan's hand. The handshake still felt odd, but somehow important. I simply recognized what your species truly is, Zorloth replied. Not just warriors, but builders. Not just adapters, but innovators. Alan smiled. That's what the others never understood. Earth was never invaded successfully, not just because we fight back, but because we learn from every encounter. The real reason Earth is never invaded anymore isn't fear, it's respect. 2 days later, as Zorloth's ship departed the Council, stationed to return to Centauri, he watched the small blue-green world on his viewing screen. Earth had been a forbidden mystery for so long. Now it would become the newest member of the galactic community. The warning beacons that had surrounded the Sol system for 50 years were being deactivated, replaced by normal navigation markers. Ships from 17 species were preparing for ceremonial visits to Earth. Human experts were already being invited to share their knowledge in medicine, engineering, and energy technology. Zorloth felt proud of his role in this historic change. He had followed his curiosity despite warnings, and discovered not a terrible threat, but a missed opportunity. His name would be remembered in galactic history, though that wasn't why he had done it. As Earth disappeared from view, Zorloth thought about what would happen next. Humans would spread out among the stars, bringing their strange mix of toughness and creativity with them. They would change the galaxy, hopefully for the better. One thing was certain. Aliens had finally learned why Earth was never invaded. Not because it couldn't be conquered, but because it was better to make friends with humans than to make them angry. And in doing so, they had gained the most valuable allies in the galaxy. End of story.